Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very much for tuning in. We have a lot to talk about, and it's very interesting. Let's just look at what's going on. Just look at CNN, a CNN headline. So just look at the following headline. Prosecutors lay out volume of evidence collected from Roger Stone's hard drives, email accounts. Okay. Evidence for what? These indictments are process indictments. These indictments are charges linked to an investigation. The nature of an investigation, lying to Congress, tampering with a witness, has nothing to do with the Mueller probe or Trump working with Russia to hack the DNC to inform the country that Bernie Sanders was cheated. Has absolutely nothing to do with any of this. So the notion that this is anything but a politicized investigation into nonsense simply for public relations reasons. I mean, that's dangerous when you politicize intel agencies, and that's very good what President Trump did the other day. When President Trump did the other day, simply calling out the intelligence agencies, that's good. You think that if Bernie Sanders was elected, he would have done that? No. He would have done only what Democrats would allow him to do. You think he would have brought home Americans from two theaters of conflict? No. But we'll get to Bernie a little later on. President Trump is a very good president, and the effort to discredit Roger Stone is proof of that. Trump never worked or colluded with anyone. And now they're getting Roger Stone on conversations he might have had with Jerome Corsi or other conversations with other people. This is now, they've criminalized gossip. They've criminalized simply a person speaking about an event, not coordinating with a foreign power, speaking about an event. In this case, the DNC and Podesta emails. You couldn't get more of working or colluding with Russia than presiding over 20% of U.S. uranium capacity being sold under President Obama. But we'll start with this. Information the Justice Department collected from Roger Stone's iCloud account and email accounts and on computer hardware spanned several years, Special Counsel Robert Mueller said Thursday. As is required by law, the prosecutors will begin sharing the evidence against Stone. That they collect evidence of what? Evidence that he spoke about WikiLeaks? Yeah, so what? Evidence that he spoke to somebody in Trump's campaign about WikiLeaks? So what? Who cares? What does that even mean? You had Maggie Haberman of the New York Times being referred to as a friendly journalist. You had who was that guy? What's that guy's name? The guy who actually gave Podesta an article pre-publication. Gave Podesta pre-publication. He worked for Politico. Glenn Thrush gave an article that he was working on. Because I have become a hack, I will send you the whole section that pertains to you. This is the actual quote, verbatim. Thrush writes to Podesta, please don't share or tell anyone I did this. What? You want to talk about collusion with the media, timing things, working? A Politico and now a Washington Post, I believe Washington Post columnist or reporter. Why would you say to Podesta, please don't please don't share or tell anyone I did this? Because I have become a hack, I will send you the whole section that pertains to you. Do you think they do this for Trump? This is just one journalist. And this is why they view WikiLeaks as such a threat to their existence, such an existential threat. So They're worried about what Roger Stone spoke about, but they're not worried about what, journalists throughout the 2016 campaign spoke about. So Information Justice Department for several years. By the way, also, what happened to Clinton's email account? Anyone hear about that? Or Clinton's server? She wiped it clean. Why didn't Roger Stone wipe clean his server? She was asked when was the last time the FBI asks politely for servers? She was asked for her servers. Initially, she said she was going to keep her servers. They were private, her property. She wasn't going to give the FBI. Then she wiped them clean with a cloth, bleach bit, destroyed evidence before giving the servers to the FBI, which is destruction of evidence. Meanwhile, the evidence against Stone includes multiple hard drives containing several terabytes of information consisting of, among other things, FBI case reports, search warrant applications, and results, bank and financial records, and the contents of numerous physical devices. For what purpose? To prove that he spoke about something to Jerome Corsi, to prove that he spoke about something that he stated to Congress he didn't speak about. Not anything to do with collusion, which, by the way, there are no statutes regarding. If there were, Clinton would be indicted, because she purchased the Steele dossier, and the Steele dossier was composed with help with the sources were Russian intelligence and Russian officials and all that. The prosecutors say in the filing Thursday the FBI seized electronic devices from Stone's home. Well, why don't they seize? Where are the electronic devices seized from Hillary Clinton? No, she was able to just, at her leisure, give all the hardware she wanted, all bleach bit, by the way, all destroyed. To my super chat, thank you so very much. You give me every incentive to rock these live streams. Luke St. Martin, Eric H526, thank you. So it's like, it makes no sense at all. None of this makes any sense. They are going after Roger Stone for process crimes, and they're treating this like it's like national security. Meanwhile, next week, you have, if he just does his job, he actually can hate Trump. He can be friends with Mueller. He can do anything he wants. Like he can be, not a MAGA person. But if he just looks at the evidence, then you have Clinton indictments, and she will eventually get indicted. She committed numerous crimes. People don't want to focus on the crimes Clinton committed because they think, oh, well, it's, water under the bridge. Oh, they swept it under the rug yet again. Oh, she got away with it. Oh, well, you know what? It was investigated. No, it wasn't. It was a cover-up. They covered up her crimes deliberately. We know this because Peter Strzok said Clinton should win 1,000,000-0. And yes, it affected his behavior. Just like any, if you have a text message that says we'll stop Trump, and it's the person investigating Clinton and Trump, and Clinton committed crimes and Trump didn't, and they don't focus on Clinton's crimes at all. They cover everything up. They say, well, and I mean, here's the actual, although there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case. Wait a second. Where are the reasonable prosecutors with Roger Stone? What did he do so horrific? So you have Corsi, who's like playing ball with Mueller and actually giving Mueller all the, the rhetoric needed. Like at this point right now, it's gossip. Just if you give Mueller any gossip, well, Stone said this about WikiLeaks. Did you say this about WikiLeaks? Well, I don't even remember. You said this about WikiLeaks. It's nothing to do with working with WikiLeaks. Nothing, because WikiLeaks never worked with Roger Stone. Some of it is self-induced on Roger Stone's part. Some of it is self-induced. And Jerome Corsi's part. But it's like what is the end game here? What's the goal? The only goal is to make Trump look horrible. That's it. That's the only goal. The only goal is to make Trump look horrible. The only goal is to make Trump seem like a criminal, even though there's no criminal act. There are no criminal acts he's accused of committing. But as long as you can make it seem like he did something horrific, that's all it is. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. If you're on social media, which is hilarious because I actually check. By the way, there is a fake account with my name. There are a couple of them, and they're actually getting into arguments with people. And I think people believe that those fake accounts are me, which is hilarious. Okay? They're not me. So if you can let people know that if it says H.A. Goodman on Twitter, it's not me because I'm not on Twitter. I deleted my Twitter account. The Progressive Soapbox has a great segment on me deleting I thank Jamal for that. Me deleting my Twitter account. And I also explained on Twitter why I deleted my Twitter account. Twitter is like a hellscape. It's like an underground inferno of hate and just a liberal Democratic Party echo chamber where everyone. And here's another thing also. If I need a lesson of morality, the last person I'll ask is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Bernie Sanders. Those are the two last people I would ask. Those are two preachers or Beto O'Rourke or anyone on the left, aside from maybe a couple people. The only person I would ever listen to on the left that is a genuine human being is Cornel West. And maybe a couple other people. Other than that, everyone, well, maybe Jill Stein. Everyone else on the left, Jill Stein, she's legitimate, she's genuine. Everyone else on the left exists only to preach. Why would I love that, like when they ask Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for her viewpoint on morality, why would I'm going to tell this story a lot. Okay, this is an interesting, I think an interesting story. I grew up, I'm from Los Angeles. In LA, there was a synagogue I went to. I grew up going to this synagogue, and this synagogue no longer exists, by the way. But this synagogue in the 80s, when I was very young, had like half of it was like Holocaust survivors, which is why when I was on Twitter and people, call people, the left calls people names, everyone is, a certain name that you can't say on YouTube. That is, of course, Germany in World War II. That strikes me as disgusting because I prayed with and I knew Holocaust survivors, and in the synagogue I went to, it was like more than half were like Holocaust survivors, people who lived through World War II. And the rabbi, even the Holocaust survivors would look up to this rabbi because his sermons were so moving. And he was so, he had such gravitas. He had such, there was such emotion, and there was such, it was so poignant whenever he'd speak. So, and he looked like Abraham Lincoln almost. Everybody would just, even people who survived the most heinous atrocities would look to him for like guidance and, spiritual strength, all of these things. Okay, because he was just a great guy, this rabbi. And it's very difficult to, when you have like certain figures that you've looked up to in your life for lessons on morality or just speeches or sustenance regarding, or motivation regarding moral issues. It's difficult when you've actually seen people who know how to walk the walk and their actions correlate with their words. So he was preaching, this rabbi, and he was not only believable, he lived his life the way he spoke. He was not a hypocrite. He was 100% genuine. Stephanie Parker, thank you so very much. We missed watching you for a couple of days. I love your voice. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Stephanie. And so this was a place of worship where if a person preached, and I'm sure if you've gone to your own church or mosque or whatever religious center you've got, place of worship you went to, I'm sure there were leaders that where if it was a pastor or a priest or an imam or a spiritual leader, like they gave you hope for the future because they were actually genuine. Now, Bernie Sanders, for a moment in time, I thought that he was somebody who would fight. For a moment in time, I thought that his voice was genuine. So he was cheated. What does he do? In a second, after a whole 2 years of we're going to fight the oligarchy, we're going to fight the 1%, all of these things, he then cozies up to the same people who cheated him, who are at the top of the 1%, the 0.1%. Then we have to hear lessons on morality still from Bernie, from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, from Hillary Clinton, from people on the left. And it's like, are you kidding me? Why would I listen to people who only care about condemning others and judging others while they behave in the most hypocritical manner? Why would I listen to condemnation and judgment without empathy or forgiveness or some sense of compassion? Stephanie Parker, thank you so very much. Derek Green, how can you be in a party or support a party or even be a friend to someone that supports? Well, that new bill is crazy. That new bill is beyond belief. That's what they care about, by the way. They don't care about Medicare for all. But my point, though, is you get these. There was that interview with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez recently, and she's asked her thoughts about billionaires and about morality. It's like, why would I listen to somebody who's a part of a political party that cheated Bernie Sanders, that defrauded voters of $200 million, then blamed Russia without a shred of evidence by outsourcing a company, literally outsourcing a company to parrot its ridiculous claims, and having that company be the only conduit to evidence. So the company CrowdStrike gave information, copies and images of the servers. Why would you trust a company that was paid by? You wouldn't trust a company paid for by Trump. Why would you trust the Democratic Party? So the whole thing was completely not only conflicts of interest, completely absurd. Then you have the media is like, oh, because I've become a hack, I'll send you the whole section. It's not just Glenn Thrush, it's Maggie Haberman also. She was viewed as a friendly journalist. You have a whole list of journalists. Debbie Wasserman Schultz phones up Chuck Todd. You think Chuck Todd accepted a phone call from anyone in the Trump administration? And it's like, it's like, but like, why would I listen to morality? And then you get Trump is a racist. No, he's not. No, he's not. I'll debate anyone on that. I debated a gentleman on RT's Crosstalk. If your standard of definition is that, well, a bigot is Trump, well, then, Hillary Clinton is far more than just that word. She's the definition of supremacy and all that stuff. But like, getting back really quickly to these people want to destroy Roger Stone simply for public relations purposes. This has nothing to do with national security. Michael Flynn possibly lying, which he didn't, to Peter Strzok has nothing to do with national security. George Papadopoulos having a conversation with somebody has nothing to do with national security. Trump did not preside over a grand plot to hack the DNC. We don't even know if that happened. What is considered mainstream is a big part of it is complete fake news and just bogus nonsense. And I have the public record. I'm using the public record as the foundation for my argument. Just because it's repeated, just because people say, well, the intelligence community believes that Russia hacked the DNC, so what? That's why I love Trump, because he called out the intelligence. You think Bernie Sanders, this is why, like, you know, it's kind of annoying when people are like, oh, yeah, H.A. Goodman became a Bernie Sanders, a Trump voter for money. It's like, there's no money in MAGA merchandise. You know, it's not like I'm selling like Make America Great Again merch. There's money in, if I really wanted money, I would either stay as a progressive or a, you know, Bernie supporter. Well, there's not that much money in that, but I would become a Clinton supporter. There's a lot of money. There's infinitely more money than becoming a Trump supporter. I'd get a green or like a whatever, a check mark on Twitter. I'd be verified. I'd stay on Twitter and I'd foment the Trump Russia nonsense. I wouldn't focus on Clinton. A lot of money. If that's really what I wanted, you could make bank. You look at channels online, they have hundreds of thousands of subs, and it's just hating on Trump. Anything they could, just repeating the Russian hacking myth. There's a lot more money. It's far more lucrative to just play ball with the left than do what I'm doing. And then also, like, for example, even what I'm doing, like, who is like one of the first people who exposed the whole nonsensical Q thing? Me. I lost 1,000 subs, which is fine, and then I gained 1,000 back, which is great. But I'm me. The left didn't like me. Well, thankfully, Trump supporters and conservatives more so, you know, appreciate my voice than most people on the left. But there were people who, on the right who didn't like me because of my exposing of Q. So it's like left or right, if you're just genuine, you're always going to find a lot of people who don't like your voice. But see, the thing is, there's no, like, if you want to make money, you stay on the left and you promote the Democratic Party talking points. You don't become a Trump supporter. It's not like I can walk around LA with my MAGA hat and be like, oh yeah, I'm so proud. You know, I mean, I'm proud to be a Trump supporter. I'm proud to vote for Trump. But it's not like you make that much, you know, oh, you switch from Bernie only for monetary reasons, which is absurd. Because Trump is far better than Bernie would ever have been. Trump is a better president than Obama ever was. There are a million reasons, even from a progressive standpoint, which I'm no longer, to vote for Trump. The fact that there's like, the left does not care about foreign policy. They have zero. They have the only preaching they do is hating on one country, Israel. That's it. That's it. I want a two-state solution. I want, you know, Palestinians to have their own state. Okay, but I don't see things only as one-sided. The left is like, that's it. That's their foreign policy. That's it. There's no push to bring Americans home from war. They don't care about that. That's why when people like are so short-sighted and they can't realize that, yes, a Bernie Sanders supporter can easily become a Trump supporter, because a big part of Bernie's platform was to end quagmires, which I brought up endlessly in my articles that went viral in 2015 and 2016. A lot of people wanted to interview me and talk to me and all that stuff because my articles went viral. The Washington Post called me the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters. They didn't call, Humanist Report or Kyle Kalinske or Cenk Uygur that. TYT was more focused on eventually getting Clinton nominated. Even though they were like, oh yeah, well, Bernie was given a raw deal and he got cheated. They're like, oh, switch courses to Clinton. She has to win. Okay, I didn't do that. And then people are like, oh my God, you're so horrible. It's like, no, I'm not horrible. I'm telling the truth. And she lost. Then they blamed Russia. But what you see here with CNN, the evidence includes multiple hard drives and containing several terabytes of information consisting of, among other things, FBI case reports. So this is another reason to vote for Trump. The intelligence community has been revered in a nauseating way by liberals and people on the left, even progressives. And it's like the only person going up against that system is Trump. It's not Bernie Sanders, who is actually perpetuating the Trump-Russia myth. How can you fight the 1% if you're actually promoting what John Brennan and others want you to believe, which is complete nonsense? How does that even work? Thank you, Ramla Farah. Thank you. Nobody's attacking Q followers. I'm exposing Q. If people want to follow an obvious nonsensical hoax, that's their business. That doesn't mean you're attacking the people. You're actually helping them. You want to believe in the Tooth Fairy, Loch Ness Monster? If people want to believe that, go ahead. I shouldn't be viewed as attacking anyone by saying the Loch Ness Monster doesn't exist. But, ladies and gentlemen, Annabomb 31458, thank you. Annabomb 31458, thank you so very, very much. As always, thank you for watching. But I mean, here you have Mueller wants to place a protective order that would lock down the confidentiality of evidence collected against Stone as the prosecutors begin sharing the documents with his legal team. Well, all this evidence, like all of this time and effort, oh my God, Roger Stone evidence is voluminous and complex. Regarding what? Regarding what he said. What he said. Now there's, Representative Jordan and Meadow join call for FBI to explain show of force in Roger Stone arrest. And then they're going to get away with it also. They're going to, well, the FBI's, it's procedure. It's procedure. Look, if William Barr, the new Attorney General, doesn't flip the script, what he's going to do is enable this to get out of hand, possibly. There's only it's been 2 years that you've told 320 million, the third most populous nation in the world, a complete and utter conspiracy theory. Adambomb 31458, thank you again. I have the best live chat. Who does the intelligence community hate? Trump. Why are Democrats and all these fantastic intel chiefs saying, well, no, we shouldn't bring home Americans? Who is bringing home Americans from two theaters of conflict? Trump. So this is a very good thing. This is a very, very good thing. It's an excellent thing. And what they're trying to do also is, because of Roger Stone's past, because of his persona, he's definitely a showman. A lot of what he did was self-induced. A lot of what he's experiencing now is self-induced. You cannot continually say that you know WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, all of these things, and you can't continually have Julian Assange and WikiLeaks constantly on Twitter saying we have no association with this guy. It's complete nonsense. You bring attention to yourself based on, just showmanship. And now they're getting him only on what he could have said to somebody, possibly, Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton transferred top secret and special access program intelligence. Rider of a pale horse. Yes, that's true. You can go to my RT segment regarding that. Rider of a pale horse. Yes, I do agree. But see, again, no connecting of dots. Rider of a pale horse, thank you. No connecting of dots for certain things. Definitely connecting ridiculous dots for Roger Stone. Then you have like, Samantha Bee destroys the myth of Roger Stone as the Republican Banksy. First of all, there was no myth that he was the Republican Banksy. Second of all, who cares what Samantha Bee says? Samantha Bee on Wednesday said about busting the mythology that outlandish GOP operative. Oh, it's an outlandish. This is the Huffington Post, where my articles went viral. Through editors, by the way. Let it be known. Editors looked over my articles, and they're the ones who published them in the Huffington Post. I didn't self-publish the articles. That I used to be able to do that until I wrote a couple articles, and I said, I wrote articles that stated that there were a certain series of articles I wrote. Well, we'll speak about that another time. And then they said, well, you basically you can't self-publish anymore. We're going to look over your articles. And basically the articles that they did, that they said, well, we're going to prevent you from just, hitting publish. I wrote that Black citizens should open carry after the spate of unarmed killings. I said that they should open carry. They should utilize Second Amendment, the rights. And so I wrote a bunch of articles saying that Black citizens should open carry and utilize 3 reasons why. I explained all of that in the article, because the Second Amendment is a beautiful thing in many ways. It's actually not. There's so many aspects to it that have nothing to do with violence. But anyway, then after that, the Huffington Post said, well, no, you can't publish. They didn't say that to me, but suddenly I couldn't just hit publish whenever I wanted to. So when I would upload all my viral articles on Bernie Sanders, on Clinton emails, everything that went through editors. Same with Salon, went through editors. Same with The Hill, went through editors. So anyway, Samantha Bee, for decades, Stone has proclaimed himself a political genius, a high-powered trickster, merrily owning the libs. See, then like the hilarious thing is like the left is like, oh, you're gonna own the libs, huh? Well, it's like, yeah, that's sort of a Republican Banksy. So they create the phrase themselves, and then they dismantle the phrase they created. He never called himself a Republican Banksy. But B then detailed why Stone, a longtime associate, is not a supervillain or gangster. He shows up whenever things are getting dirty. He's more like America's athlete's foot. Oh my God, that's really funny. Ha 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 ha. Like this is what it's all about. It's just about public relations. And if you were to utilize the same fanaticism with Clinton and the actual crime she committed, you would have a whole bunch of people indicted. But see, that's the thing. It's like, and this is the type of Huffington Post. John Podesta had a smile during Roger Stone's arrest. He's in a world of hurt. This is the guy who presided over a campaign that cheated Bernie Sanders. And now the Huffington Post is like, oh wow, look at all the wonderful people on the left, in the Democratic Party. John Podesta's brother lobbied on behalf of Uranium One, and Tony Podesta is now part of the Mueller probe. So, like, what on earth did Roger Stone have to do with Clinton's campaign? What did he like aside from being part of a winner, as opposed to a losing campaign in Clinton? Oh, here we go. Vengeance doesn't run deep in my veins. Yeah, right. It actually, there's an email where you basically say that it does. But I had a smile on my face because I think Stone has been lying for a very long time. Oh, this is coming from John Podesta. And I think it's finally caught up with him. Oh, okay. Lying about what? They're getting him on process crimes. Could you imagine the process crimes that Clinton would be charged with? What about obstruction of justice? Like 10 examples. So thank you, Sovereignty 1008. Thank you. So it's like, it's here to stay. Thank you, Bill Barr, new sheriff in town. He is a new sheriff in town. And it's next week. Well, actually, what? This coming Tuesday. Just a couple days from now. And it's just really sad that people on the left love to here. Just, it's like, Bernie Sanders on Twitter. What hold does Russia have over President Trump? That's disgusting. Here's one example. What hold does Russia have? So you're going to perpetuate the same myth that was utilized against you, Bernie, in the primary. Wow, what a really amazing fighter against the 1%. What hold does Russia have over President Trump? Well, Hillary Clinton said you honeymooned in Moscow. Or sorry, the Democratic Party was talking about how you honeymooned in Moscow. Okay. Then we have Bernie Sanders. This is a tweet from July 17th. Yesterday was a good day for Putin and the oligarchs in Russia. Well, Bernie, are you talking about the uranium sale? Are you talking about the Clinton? Oh, no, I'm sorry. But it was a bad day for the people of the United States and all over the world who believe in democracy and who are trying to understand what world our idiot president lives in. Well, Bernie, you're the idiot who was cheated and got people to give $200 million to the campaign, your campaign, and you're the guy who is now perpetuating the same myth that says you were part of Putin's plot to cheat Hillary out of the election. You and Jill Stein. So talk about an idiot. I mean, you can go on. How do you go from a person who is going to end quagmires to a guy who is going to perpetuate a myth that Bernie Sanders knows there was no Russian hacking. He knows very well. That's why a whole lot of Bernie voters are voting for Trump, because they're not like, they don't get offended over every single word and every single statement that could possibly link to a euphemism that could be easily used to describe Hillary Clinton. People loved Bernie because, he was going to end quagmires. He was going to break up too big to fail banks. Have you ever heard Bernie supporters nowadays talk about that? No. So that's how you go from Bernie to Trump. Bernie Sanders, the Bernie Sanders supporter in 2016 could easily go to Trump. The Bernie Sanders supporter in 2019 or 2020, obviously won't, because they're the Democratic Party. But see, that's another hilarious thing. It's still not good enough because Bernie was seen as a racist by a lot of people within the Democratic Party, which is hilarious. And then we have Bernie Sanders. The person Donald Trump has nominated to the lead to the EPA doesn't believe in climate change as a crisis. Well, do you, Bernie? Why did you then back Hillary Clinton, who took money from oil and gas? And now Beto O'Rourke is taking the second more money than anyone else aside from Ted Cruz. So does he not care about climate change? And then Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders has been treated terribly by Democrats, both with delegates and otherwise. He should show them and run as an independent. That's amazing. Like, that's what should have taken place. But Bernie didn't have the courage. He didn't have he wasn't authentic enough to do that. Because if you fight the 1% and you want to go ahead and take it to the establishment, you don't then finally get the House. And then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and all the wonderful Bernie-inspired progressives, you think there's zero legislation. So which one is it? Is it just talking and preaching, or is it actual legislation that you're going to vote on? Which one is it? Because for 2 years, now people are saying, well, she's furthering the conversation. For 2 years, you've had the conversation. Matthew Rosenfeld, thank you. Here's some quick getaway Uber Cash, HA, just in case. Matthew, thank you. That won't happen because all my statements come from public record, not Martians from MySpace or like Roger Stone or Corsi. They're like, oh yeah, we're so close with WikiLeaks, which wasn't. WikiLeaks doesn't need anyone. But no, I mean, Roger Stone is heroic in what he's doing. Matthew, but thank you so much. As always, Matthew, for watching. Thank you, Matthew. Mitchell Smith, William Barr legacy, greatest AG ever. All he has to do is indict, convict, sentence the ones who actually committed crimes. Absolutely, Mitchell Smith. Absolutely. I agree 100% with you. I agree 100% with you. That's all he has to do. That is all he has to do. And then he will be one of the greatest attorney generals ever. Thank you, Mitchell Smith. Thank you. So Bernie Sanders consistently repeats the same nonsense that was used against him. Here's the simple truth. Donald Trump is an authoritarian leader who does not believe in democracy. Really, Bernie? Really, Bernie? You were cheated by the Democratic Party. Do you have anything to say? Are you going to stand up for yourself or your voters? No, you won't. You'll just continue to be a tool of Deborah Wasserman Schultz. If you say a derogatory, she was very nice to me and my supporters. How can you do that? How can a person who claims he was going to fight and revamp the system not only become part of the system, but work overtime for the same system that cheated him and his voters? How does that even work? How does that work? It's like giving somebody who stole your car, like buying that person a car. You stole my car at night and you broke into the window and there was glass everywhere. Let me just buy you a new car. No. Let me buy you a car. Patricia Marino. I was a huge Bernie supporter. Now I'm for Trump and plan on voting for him in 2020. Patricia Marino, thank you. Exactly. I agree. And people are like, how could you go from Bernie to... Yeah, because Bernie's movement or whatever it is not what it was. This is the actual truth. The Bernie Sanders platform was closer to Trump than it was to Hillary Clinton. Much closer, especially in terms of foreign policy, especially in terms of revamping the system. The system relies on intel chiefs perpetuating nonsense. Only Trump is going up against that. Peace between North and South Korea and bringing home Americans alone. Those two things alone should have every Bernie Sanders voter in 2016 vote for Trump in 2020. Patricia Marino, 100%. Luke St. Martin. I'd personally chisel Barr's likeness on for the aforementioned goodies. Luke St. Martin, Mitchell Smith. Exactly. Thank you. And then here we have Bernie saying the election officials in Florida, Georgia, and Arizona must ignore the rantings of this president and count every vote. Are you kidding me? This is a guy who is cheated and then now telling people that Democrats don't play dirty. How do you do that? How does somebody who once had such a powerful hold on so many people do that? I mean, talk about like being irresponsible. You talk about being unethical and immoral, or immoral. As someone who campaigned hard for Hillary Clinton from one end of the country to another, it's an outrage that she had to run against not only Donald. This is a sad, sad testament. As someone who this is a tweet, February 21st. As someone who campaigned hard for Hillary Clinton from one end of this country to another, it is an outrage that she had to run not only against Donald Trump, but also the Russian government. You mean Bernie Sanders, the Russian government informed us that you were being cheated? Does anyone see the Twilight Zone absurdity of this? Bernie Sanders is actually fomenting the same myth that deceives Democrats, that makes Democrats forget that Bernie Sanders was cheated. So at the end of the day, what this is like a time traveling. This is like a time travel story gone bad. Bernie is cheated, and then Bernie is cheated by Democrats. Democrats then pretend the Russians let everyone know Bernie was cheated, and then Bernie Sanders then perpetuates the same myth that says Russia informed everyone that Bernie Sanders was cheated. Does that make any sense? I have to read this all. So that's how you become a Trump voter. Like, how can you, Bernie? How can you do that? Luke St. Martin, thank you. Eric H526, thank you. Thanks for being great moderator as always. It's just so sad. Yeah, she went after she had to campaign against the Russian government. Why? Because the Russian government informed everyone that you were cheated, Bernie. It would have been so much better had we known that you weren't cheated. And I guess that would mean that she wouldn't have run against the Russian government. I don't even know. It's so bizarre. Why? And then, like, why pretend you're an independent? Just be a Democrat. Bernie Sanders was cheated by Deborah Wasserman Schultz. Okay. And then Mother Jones, it's supposed to be like the nation, it's supposed to be like, oh my God, really the left, the left wing of America's left, Trump's intelligence chiefs contradicted him on live TV. No, Mother Jones, really? You mean the same people who said WMD also? Oh my God, naturally he's blaming the media. There you go. What do you expect these intelligence chiefs to do? You need one president to stand up to them. JFK stood up to his intel chiefs and his generals and said, no, we're not going to attack Cuba. That was a good thing because Castro was ready to ask the Soviets to launch a nuclear counterstrike. So that's why, of all the people, like the last people you need is anyone associated with the Democratic Party to give you lessons on morality. Now they're like, we're going to tax people above $1 billion. Like, you know very well that if you want to implement Medicare for all, you'd have to tax middle-class Americans. That's the only way you would afford it for 320 million people. Even if you don't believe the Mercatus study, double to triple, fine. What about 30 to 40% increase in taxes for the average American? No, nobody would. No, that would never fly. That same study that people use, oh yeah, or the poll, it's like, well, it goes from 80 to 30. Roller coaster. Bernie Sanders actually perpetuated the myth that his Buff Bernie coloring book Facebook ad was what hurt Hillary Clinton. I swear it's like he's cheated, and then he is actually perpetuating the myth that says Russia informed everyone he was cheated. It's it's absurd. It's so sad. And this is not what gets the 1%. The 1% utilizes Bernie Sanders. Is utilizing Bernie Sanders, not Jill Stein. Jill Stein has integrity. Jill Stein has integrity. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. I will be back. Thank you. And to my super chat, thank you so very much. I'll be back in a couple of hours. Thank you so very, very much, everyone. Have a great, great day. Thank you.